Hello everyone and welcome back to our Mystery Friday video for EYFS. Today I have got two super fun activities for you to have a go at. They're both really quick activities, so they're not something that you need a lot to do. And the reason I've chosen these activities today is because they are activities to do with water. When I was having a little look on Teams, I saw that you have been looking at Archimedes' bath with Mrs. Harper. So I thought it would be really interesting for us to do some artwork today to do with water. I also thought that because of this beautiful weather, you might like some activities that you could do outside. I definitely think we need to make the most of this weather while it lasts. So this is a water art. These are two water art activities that can be done outside. Now, I've chosen to do mine inside because our outdoor table is currently covered in potted plants. So I decided to come inside to do ours today. Now, this is a little bit of a note for parents. It is going to involve quite a bit of water, these activities. So you definitely want to do it in a space where you feel comfortable with water being used and water that will, in one of the activities, contain food colouring. So you definitely want somewhere that you feel you're happy for water to be used. I'm in my conservatory. I've got a waterproof table cover, and I've got a tiled floor underneath just for ease of cleaning. And I would also recommend children wearing clothes that they don't mind, or you don't mind, if they get a little bit grubby in. But as I say, this is something you could do outside. You could just go outside and do this on the grass. You do not have to be inside to do this activity. I've just decided to do it inside today. Okay, so we'll get into it. These art activities are actually really great. And again, this is a little bit of a side note for parents. These are really great activities for fine motor skills. So the skills that we use in things like writing and crafting, those little fine movements that help us with holding a pencil and cutting with scissors, these are really great activities for that. So I'm going to launch straight into my first activity today. And my first activity today is you are going to need some plain A4 printer paper. Now, I suppose you could use something like card if you wanted to, but I'm using what I've got, which is just plain A4, run-of-the-mill printer paper. Now, my mum keeps a lot of art and craft supplies, so this is a bag of tissue paper that she keeps from things like gifts and things. You can easily get this kind of tissue paper at craft stores, at places like the Works and things like that. So definitely it's definitely something you will need for this activity. And what this activity, besides the plain A4 paper and the tissue paper, you are going to need a little glass. I've got a little glass jar of water, and you are going to need a paintbrush. Okay, that's all you're going to need for this activity. Water, tissue paper, plain A4 paper, paintbrush. Now, this activity, the idea is you are going to get your tissue paper, and you don't have to be precious about this, entirely how you want to do it. What you're going to start off by doing is ripping up the paper into little bits. Now this is using some fine motor skills as well, to do that little tearing motion. So I've chosen to go with some purple. Choose your favourite colours. I've got some bright luminous pink, love a bit of pink. You're just going to rip up as much of it as you want. Now, I'm obviously not going to spend this whole time doing the whole piece of paper, but the idea is that you would cover this whole piece of paper in tissue paper. Okay? As much as you want and in whatever pattern you want. So you create your own pattern. So I've got a bit of purple, a bit of pink, a little bit of red, and I've arranged it how I want it. The only thing is be careful how you breathe, because if you breathe too heavily, what it will do is shoot across your picture. So now what you're going to do is get your paintbrush, get some water, dip it in, and you don't want to use too much water, but you also don't want to be too stingy with the water. You want quite a bit. So you're just going to, and what it will do is you will cover the whole thing. Cover it all. Cover it with water in exactly the pattern you want. And the idea is that the colour from the tissue paper will bleed into the paper underneath, your white paper, and when it dries, it will stain the paper underneath with whatever pattern and colours you've used. So, you could just do this outside, rip up your tissue paper. You might want to be somewhere where you're out the wind, and just go to town. I suppose if you're doing it outside, it's a lot easier because you don't have to worry about what happens to the water if it gets spilt. Grass and plants always appreciate whatever water you can give them when it's hot. So now that I have pushed that down, it should look a little bit like this. Your tissue paper should now be wetted to your white paper underneath. Okay, and what will happen is as it dries, the colour from the tissue paper will stain your white paper underneath. Okay, now I'm going to leave this one to dry, but I'm going to show you what kind of effect it has with once it has dried. So this is one I've done earlier. Now, again, I didn't cover a lot of it. I just did a sample so I could see what it looked like. The darker the colour, the better the stain, is what I would say. So I've used a little bit of a light blue, which you can just barely see. So light blue didn't show up very well, but my purple and my red colour really did. And I've got a little bit of orange there at the top. So darker the colour, the better the stain. But what you would do, you could cover the whole piece of paper in different kinds of tissue paper. You could even create a picture with the tissue paper. So when you put the water on, it stains your picture into the paper underneath. It just creates a really cool effect. And you don't need a lot of resources to create it. I saw on the link that I was looking at so many cool ways they had done this. So in the description box down underneath, I'm going to link to that website so you can just have a little look, see if it gives you any ideas of different things you'd like to create. I saw one person who created like a jungle doing this. So it's super cool. So that's the first activity involving water. And as I say, they're quick activities. You could spend as long as you wanted doing this. And your fine motor skill comes in getting the water and holding your paintbrush and they call it cycling, but like putting the water on and ripping the tissue paper and sticking it in your pattern. Okay, so it's really good for lots of things. I also think it's just a very relaxing, nice thing that you could do. So pop him over there to dry. Now you could have just like a baking rack to pop it on, but I'm just going to pop it on the table. So now your second activity is going to involve food colouring. So this is where I would say, the other one is just really water, so it's not really going to damage clothes, but this one has the potential to ruin clothes. So I put an apron on. You could put an apron on, but I would recommend also wearing clothes you wouldn't mind if they got a little bit grubby. Okay, so I have got a clear glass sort of tray bowl here. It's got to be big enough that you could lay a piece of A4 paper in it, because you're going to need the A4 paper again. Now I'm going to add some water into my bowl, just plain water. Now, I have chosen my food colouring. My food colouring is red. Now, this is definitely a part where you might need an adult to support you, because you do not want to put a whole bottle of food colouring in. Food colouring spreads very quickly, and when you put, you're just not going to need a whole bottle of this. You're going to need a little bit though. So, this is definitely a time when you need your adult. Or an adult might want to be present. Now I've chosen red. but I know from experience that it does come out a little bit like an orange colour. And what you're going to do is, now I put my food colouring in, I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir so it mixes in like that, so that we've got, oh nice. Now see, mine comes, it almost comes out like an orange / yellowy colour. Okay, and once you've got your now coloured water, okay, you are going to want to get, now this is just some Tesco's vegetable oil. It's nothing fancy. You're going to need a little bit of oil. Now, they do say that you could use a pipette in this, that they recommend you use a pipette, which is one of these. It's got that little squishy head at the top where you suck it in and then pop it in. But, you know, it's not generally something that everybody has lying around the house. So, you know, you could use the end of a paintbrush. You could use anything where it's got a little sharp point where you can put little drops in. And this is where the fine motor skill comes in for this activity, because you're going to very carefully and gently put oil on this, and you are not going to put a lot on at once. Because if you put too much oil on, it will just sit on the surface of the water, and when you lay your A4 piece of paper on, it will not collect any of the coloured water. So what this effect this is going to create is almost, it looks kind of like water bubbles. So where the oil is sat on the water, it will create these like white spots, and the rest of your paper will become stained with the food colouring water, and it creates this really cool effect. I saw on the link that I've got, which again I will put in the description underneath, people created all different kinds of fun patterns with it. They went as big or as small as they wanted to. This is definitely a very careful activity. You've got to be really slow and careful, and you've got to decide when you think you've got enough oil on the top. Okay, so move this a little bit closer. I'm going to get my oil like this, and then I'm going to very gently put little dots of oil on the surface. Okay, as many as you want. You decide how many you want on the surface. I've got quite a few small ones. I'm going to try and do some bigger ones. Oh, that's a nice big one. I'll do one more. Okay. So on the surface now, I've got these little circle dots of oil on top of my coloured water. And then what I'm going to do is get a piece of A4 paper, and you're going to lay it flat on top. Now, my tray glass bowl isn't quite wide enough for my whole piece of A4 paper. You could just use a baking tray. It doesn't have to be anything, like whatever you need. It doesn't have to be clear. I just wanted it clear so you could see what was happening inside the bowl. So I thought if it's not clear, you won't be able to see. So what you're going to do is just lay it down flat on top. You might just want to press it down in places so it makes contact with, there we go. And then I'm going to turn mine round so you can see the effect as it comes up. Should look a little bit like that. And if you look very closely, you can already see the dots like we've just had before. Now this will need a nice place to dry, but you could do this as many times as you wanted. You could change the different colours. You don't have to use red. You could use any colour water you want. You could create all different, how many dots you, like sort of dots of oil you wanted on the top. You can have big ones, little ones, medium-sized ones, whatever you wanted. You create the pattern, and then you could create it as many times as you wanted. Again, a great thing you can do outside. Doesn't require a lot, and if you spill this on the grass, it won't make any difference. So those are my two water activities today. I hope you enjoy having a go at these. When they dry, they create really cool effects. And as I say, they're just short, nice little things you can do outside in the sunshine when we're trying to make the most out of this gorgeous weather. And let me just see if I can show you. See if I can find. It has started to show up a little bit underneath, but what happens is so just to return to this one, you pull this tissue paper off at the end, and that's when you will see the pattern revealed underneath. So you need to pull the paper off at the end, and it reveal your coloured pattern underneath. Okay, and this one you just leave to dry. All right, I really hope that you have fun doing some of these and having a go with these over the weekend, creating all kinds of fun things. I would love, 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 love to see the wonderful things you've created, and I hope most importantly, that you have a wonderful time, lots of fun, and get outside enjoying that gorgeous sunshine. Okay, bye.